What if everything you're searching for was already inside you? The love, the peace, the fullness, not as future promises or as external rewards, but as realities asleep in the depths of your being. Perhaps what you need isn't to run toward new connections or fill your life with more stimuli. Maybe what your soul truly craves is silence, space, and presence. The true transformation doesn't happen when someone else arrives. It happens when you finally dare to stay with yourself, without distractions, without masks, without depending on the reflection of another, to recognize yourself. That is conscious solitude. It's not isolation. It's an intimate date with your essence, a portal toward the rediscovery of everything you already are. Because only when you learn to inhabit yourself, the world ceases to be a place to search and becomes a space to share. What you're about to hear is not just another idea, it's a truth that can change the way you see your life, your relationships, and your way of being with yourself. This is not about theories or pretty phrases. It is a real invitation to look inward, to question what you have always believed about happiness and what it means to feel complete, because maybe you're not missing anything. Maybe you just need to learn to be with yourself in a different way, and that's where everything begins. Many people live trapped in the same cycle. They connect, they get their hopes up, they get lost, and they start all over again. Relationships come and go as if they are always looking for something they can't find. But what are they really looking for? Deep down, it's not the other person. It's feeling seen, validated, and accompanied. It's that desperate attempt to fill a void that hurts, but that cannot be filled from the outside. Most people believe they need someone else to feel complete, but when that idea is looked at with honesty, it falls apart. Because no relationship can give you what you haven't learned to give yourself. And now, stop for a moment and ask yourself sincerely, are you looking in another for what you don't know how to give yourself? Do you cling to a relationship out of love or out of fear of being alone? Do you need someone to tell you that you are worthy because you don't feel it inside yet? Many people live waiting for the next message, the next gesture, the next "I love you," as if their peace depended on what someone else does or doesn't do. And that's not love, it's disguised dependence. If you also feel empty when there's no one by your side, maybe it's not the world that's failing you. Maybe it's time to stop looking outside and start finding yourself within. The human being doesn't need another person to feel love, joy, or fullness. The body, in fact, is designed to generate those emotions from within without depending on anyone else. What it really needs isn't more external stimuli, but moments of silence, of real connection with itself. Spaces where it can listen, regulate, and remember who it is without the voices from the outside. That's where the transformation begins. When instead of seeking more noise, you choose an inner presence. Many people spend years jumping from relationship to relationship, hoping someone will come to save them from their emptiness. And when that person doesn't meet their expectations, conflict, dependence, or abandonment appears. It's the same pattern disguised as love. But true transformation doesn't come with a partner. It comes when someone dares to be alone, with no one to distract them, with no one to rescue them. And in that conscious solitude, real change begins, because it is in that difficult, uncomfortable, sometimes devastating space where you can no longer blame the other, where the projections fall away, and you can finally see clearly what you always looked for outside. Love, security, value. It's not easy, but it's real, and that's where true emotional freedom begins. When a person stops looking outside for what they need, something profound begins to move inside. It is as if in the middle of the silence, a more honest version of themselves begins to emerge, a version that no longer needs to impress, please, or be approved to feel worthy. Louise Hay said it clearly, what we think about ourselves becomes the truth for us. And when someone stays in conscious solitude, those thoughts, those old beliefs begin to fall apart. You no longer live from what others said you were. A new, freer, more conscious, and more real identity begins to be built. Solitude is not being empty, it is being whole, without depending on anyone else. Many people believe that being alone is a lack, but in reality it's a form of presence, a deep presence where you no longer need to take pieces from others to feel whole. When you truly understand this, something changes. You realize that happiness doesn't come with a partner, nor with external validation, nor with someone looking at you so you feel seen. It arrives when you learn to sustain your own inner world. There, in that intimate and silent space, is the fertile ground to cultivate everything you once desperately sought outside. Love, peace, joy, security, and for the first time they don't depend on anyone else. And when a person achieves that internal connection, something changes, not just emotionally, but also physically. The body begins to relax, insomnia decreases, the immune system strengthens, the mood becomes more stable, lighter, and clearer because you are no longer living from scarcity or from the fear of abandonment. You stop needing and you start choosing. You no longer seek to fill a void with the energy of others, nor do you demand that someone else be responsible for your own well-being. From that place of balance, what is offered to the world is no longer a demand, but a gift. You share from an inner abundance, and that completely transforms the quality of relationships in life. When a person allows themselves to be truly alone, without distractions, without looking outside for what they are missing inside, something powerful begins to happen in their interior. The brain, finally at peace, begins to function in a different way. It activates in a distinct way, as if you were opening up space in fertile ground where there was only noise before. And suddenly new ideas, new emotions, new connections begin to sprout. These internal roots cannot be formed when you are constantly reacting to others. They only emerge when there is silence, when the body feels safe and the mind stops being in defense mode. Just as a garden flourishes when it is given care and space, the brain needs moments of solitude to grow, to repair itself, and to discover paths that once seemed impossible. And here comes one of the most revealing findings of science. People who learn to be alone, truly, without fear, without anxiety, not only feel better, but their brain physically changes. Studies show that over time, those who practice conscious solitude develop a greater capacity to regulate their emotions, make decisions calmly, and access higher states of mental clarity and well-being. It's not just that they handle it well, it's that their brain structure is transformed. The areas related to stress turn off. The zones in charge of creativity, intuition, and inner peace activate. And this is not a metaphor. It's neuroplasticity. When someone gives themselves permission to be alone without fear, their nervous system learns to live without depending on the constant stimulus of others. And from there, they begin to experience a level of emotional freedom that many people don't even imagine exists. Being alone doesn't break you, it reconfigures you. Stop for a second and think about this. Every time you choose to be alone, consciously, without evasion, you're not just resting from the world, you're doing so much more. You are literally rebuilding your mind. When your brain isn't busy responding to external noise, it begins to create new neural connections. Connections that strengthen your self-control, your creativity, your clarity, and that will accompany you for the rest of your life. It's not about being alone for the sake of it. It's about using that space as an internal laboratory where your energy is regenerated, your thoughts are organized, and a new, more stable, more conscious, and stronger version of you is installed. Solitude, when lived well, doesn't shut you down, it reprograms you. From a very young age, without realizing it, we were taught an idea that was established as an absolute truth. When you find someone, then you'll be happy. We hear it in stories, in movies, in songs, in family conversations. Over and over again, the same message is disguised as romantic love. And so, without questioning it, many grew up believing that self-love was not enough, that life only made sense if someone else came to complete it. It's a kind of emotional programming, a recipe implanted in the mind since childhood, repeated so many times that the brain took it for true, without our permission, without showing us another option. But now it is time to choose a new story, one where you don't look for the other out of need, but out of choice. One where happiness doesn't depend on finding someone, but on finding yourself. Think for a moment about a past relationship. Do you remember how you felt when that person canceled plans at the last minute? That pang in your stomach, your mind racing non-stop. The feeling of not having control faltering. That wasn't just sadness, it was your body entering a state of emotional withdrawal, as if it needed the presence of the other to feel calm. And it's not a coincidence, it's that without realizing it, your brain learned to associate stability with that person. You literally trained it to depend on someone else, to feel safe, worthy, and at peace. But that's not love. It's dependence disguised as a bond. Every time you choose to stay with yourself without escaping, without seeking distractions, you are doing much more than just passing the time. You are retraining your mind. You are showing your nervous system that it doesn't need anyone else's presence to feel safe. That calm, joy, and stability can be born from within, without depending on what someone else does or doesn't do. When you learn to enjoy your own company, your brain begins to build new emotional roots that are no longer activated by fear of abandonment, but by real connection with yourself. And from there, everything changes, because you no longer react from scarcity, but from peace, and that is real power. If you are in a relationship and still feel alone, if you share your life with someone, but have lost your voice, your space, your center, if every decision depends on what the other person wants, says, or needs, maybe you already know it. Even if you haven't said it out loud, you're not living your life, you're surviving in someone else's. And that hurts. It hurts to feel that you have been fading away to sustain something that no longer sustains you. It hurts to be silent so as not to cause discomfort. It hurts to realize that love, instead of expanding you, has been shrinking you inside. And yet staying seems easier than facing the void, because even if you're not happy, at least you're not alone. It's true. True solitude is not the absence of another. It's being with yourself and not recognizing yourself. It's feeling disconnected, even when you're with company. If something inside you can no longer take it, if there is a voice that whispers that you can't go on like this, it's time to listen to yourself. How to start? You don't have to break anything suddenly. Just start by returning to yourself in moments of silence, in small spaces where you can ask yourself, what do I want? What is good for me? What part of myself have I abandoned to sustain this relationship? Start by recovering your boundaries, by giving yourself permission to be with yourself without guilt, by reconnecting with who you were before you gave everything away. And if you are alone, but the void remains, the answer is not to run out and look for someone. The answer is to learn to make yourself a habitable, safe, loving, and whole place, because no one, no matter how much they love you, can give you the peace that you haven't learned to offer yourself. Going back to yourself is the most courageous and also the most liberating act. When you start working with your own energy, something very powerful happens, even if you don't notice it at first. In the silence of solitude, especially when you meditate or simply breathe with yourself without distractions, your brain changes frequency, literally. You go from the beta state, where the mind runs non-stop, analyzing, comparing, remembering, and worrying, and you gradually enter deeper states, alpha and theta. These are spaces where the mind becomes still and opens up, where you are no longer reacting to the external world, but connecting with your inner world. In those slower, softer states, the body relaxes, the nervous system regulates, and most importantly, consciousness begins to expand. You stop thinking so much, and you start to feel. You stop controlling, and you start to perceive. It is in that state that true transformation begins, not from effort, but from tuning in with what you are in essence. This is where the real magic happens. When you enter those states of deep calm, the noise of the world turns off. You are no longer processing external stimuli or reacting to what is happening outside of you. You turn inward. And you finally recognize yourself not as a role or a story, but as pure consciousness. In that silence, in that presence, you begin to heal. Louise Hay said, "When you really love yourself, everything in your life works, and it is precisely in this conscious solitude where that love can begin to take root, not as an idea, but as an experience." Every time you choose to sit with yourself without running away, without getting distracted, you are strengthening new neural networks in your brain. It's like building internal highways of self-awareness, where before there were only paths of fear, dependence, or lack. And the more you walk those new routes, the more natural peace becomes, the easier it becomes to choose yourself, and the clearer the love you once sought in others becomes. Let me share a simple but profoundly transformative exercise with you. Every morning before starting your tasks, before opening yourself up to the world, give yourself 20 minutes of complete stillness. Sit with yourself. Bring your attention to the center of your chest, to your heart. You don't need to do anything else. Just be, feel the energy there. Don't force it, just observe it. Allow your breath to accompany it as if you were breathing directly into your soul. And when thoughts appear, because they will, about people, things to do, memories, or expectations, don't judge them. Just gently return to the heart, to your center, to you. That practice, repeated every day, not only calms the mind, it begins to reconfigure it. It begins to build within you a space of stability and inner power that no longer depends on anyone else. At first it may be difficult. Your mind will try to distract you. Your body will feel restless, and maybe a part of you will wonder, why am I doing this? It is completely normal. You are not failing, you are unlearning, you are deactivating years, even decades of programming that taught you to look outside for what was always within. But here's the beautiful thing: if you are consistent, even for a few minutes each day, something begins to change. One day you realize that you no longer react the same way, that you don't need so much, that you can enjoy your own company without anxiety, that your peace does not depend on whether someone arrives, stays, or leaves. Daily practice creates new foundations, and those foundations become your refuge, your root, your new emotional identity. Because true power is not in controlling what happens outside, it is in mastering the world you carry within. Think about it this way: every person you have had a bond with, a partner, a family member, a friend, has left an energetic imprint on you. Sometimes that imprint is loving, but other times it is loaded with fear, dependence, or pain. And without realizing it, you begin to think and feel from those imprints of the past. This creates patterns, automatic reactions, and cycles that repeat themselves. But when you are alone and choose to work consciously with your energy, something powerful happens. You begin to see clearly which patterns are yours and which ones you have inherited, absorbed, or simply repeated. And there you can decide which part of yourself you want to continue feeding and which part you are ready to let go of. You are no longer at the mercy of the emotions or vibrations of others. Now you are the one who chooses what energy to inhabit. This is where the quantum field becomes a true teacher, because when you cleanse your field, you open up space for new possibilities, for a life that is not based on the past, but on the energy you choose to create today. Here is a simple, yet profoundly transformative practice. Every morning before talking to anyone or getting immersed in your activities, sit with yourself and consciously generate 3 emotions: gratitude, joy, and unconditional love. You don't need to think about anyone. You don't need to remember something that happened to you. Just close your eyes and choose to feel it from within. Imagine how it feels to be grateful, how it feels to be full of joy. How does it feel to love unconditionally, without asking for anything in return? Allow those emotions to run through your body. Feel them expand from your chest throughout your entire being. Let them permeate every cell as if you were filling yourself with a new energy. This isn't just about thinking positively. It's about teaching your body that it can experience elevated states without depending on anything or anyone. It is emotional reprogramming. And when you do it every day, you begin to create a new inner foundation, one from which to live, choose, and connect. It's not just about learning to be alone. It's about something much bigger. You are learning to be emotionally free. That inner freedom, the ability to calm yourself, to feel good about yourself, to not react on impulse, is what changes everything. It not only transforms your relationships, it transforms your whole life, because every time you choose to regulate your emotions with consciousness, without running away or blaming anyone, you are breaking an old pattern. You are stopping living from scarcity, fear, or habit, and you are starting to choose from maturity, clarity, and peace. That is power. And that power doesn't come from outside, it comes from within you. When you spend time in solitude, in a real state of self-awareness, not distraction, not avoidance, but true presence, something profound begins to happen in your brain. It literally begins to prune the neural connections that were linked to stress, fear, and repetitive patterns of the past, and it begins to build new roots associated with calm, creation, and possibilities. What does it mean to be in a state of self-awareness? It means, for example, realizing that you are feeling anxious, and instead of looking for someone to distract you, sitting down to breathe with yourself. It means recognizing that you are repeating thoughts of scarcity and consciously choosing a positive affirmation to transform them. It means observing an uncomfortable emotion without the need to act from it, just seeing it, feeling it, and letting it pass. Louise taught that every thought we choose is like a seed. If you cultivate thoughts of love, patience, trust, and acceptance, you are sowing emotional health and physical well-being in your life. And that doesn't just happen by thinking differently. It happens when you are present with yourself and consciously choose what energy to feed. And that act, as simple as it may seem, is an act of power. Because the more time you spend in self-awareness, the easier it becomes to let go of the old and build a new version of yourself that is not limited by past wounds, dependencies, or conditioning. The key is to learn to direct your energy in those moments of stillness. Instead of letting your mind run toward the worries of the day, toward your to-do lists, or your relationships, do something different. Return to yourself. Focus on feeling your own presence. Feel the energy in your hands, in your chest, in every part of your body. Just that, being with yourself. This goes beyond a simple meditation. It is a daily training for your consciousness. You are teaching your body what it feels like to live in calm, what it feels like to be whole without depending on anything external, what it feels like to inhabit a new, lighter, and freer energy. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Your body learns, your mind changes, your energy elevates. You are building a new foundation from within, one that doesn't falter with what happens outside. So if there is one thing you should remember from all of this, it is this: you didn't come to this world to depend on others emotionally. You came to remind yourself that you are already complete. Conscious solitude is not a punishment. It is a portal to your true essence, toward a version of you that is more stable, more free, and more at peace. Every moment you choose to be with yourself without escaping, without getting distracted, You are reconfiguring your mind, your energy, and your destiny. And yes, at first it may hurt, but what is on the other side of that pain is not emptiness. It is sovereignty, it is freedom, it is real love. Because only when you learn to enjoy your own company can you share with others from fullness and not from need. This is the new path, one where you don't need anyone else to choose you to feel worthy, one where you are your own source. And from there, from that place of inner power, your entire life begins to reflect your new frequency. How are you? How do you feel after listening to this message? Do you think this video can help you see solitude in a different way, a lighter, more loving and more energetic way? I would love to read you in the comments. Tell me how you are going to start seeing your life from now on. From what place are you going to choose yourself? I'm going to be responding to all the messages with a lot of love, because this channel is not a space for judging, but for growing together. Here there are many of us who are on the same path, learning, letting go of old patterns, and building a more conscious life from within. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving this time to yourself. I invite you to continue exploring this channel, to subscribe if you haven't already, to like it if this content touched your heart, and to share it with someone who needs it. You never know who you can be helping with just one gesture. Remember these words from Louise: you have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try now to approve of yourself and see what happens. I send you a big hug, and I'll be here for you in this space of transformation every time you need it.